In this video, we're going to be talking about QuickBooks Online QBO projects. And there's a couple things to keep in mind before we get started. The first thing is projects was just released within the last 2 weeks by Intuit, the maker of QBO. So it's still very much a work in process. The second thing is you need to have a QBO Plus subscription in order to turn on the projects feature. The current price of QBO Plus is $50 per month. So if you have an essential subscription or a simple start subscription, you'll need to upgrade in order to utilize the projects feature. The third thing to keep in mind is you have to manually turn on the projects feature. It's not automatically turned on. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate how to turn on the projects feature in QBO. The first thing you do, this is super simple, click on the gear icon, click on Account and Settings, go down to the Advanced option, and then scroll down until you get on this Projects option. Click the pencil icon, click on Use Project Financial Tracking, and then hit Save. And another thing to keep in mind is once you turn on this feature, you can't turn it off. Okay, so now that we've added the projects feature, on the left-hand menu we have this projects option. So let's click on that. And then let's add our first project. So we get this screen on the right-hand side that asks us for the project name. We're going to call it Computer Consulting. Very imaginative, I know. We're going to choose Mercury Financial, and we're going to say Computer Consulting at headquarters for the note. And we're going to hit Save. So right away we can see the project title, Computer Consulting. We have the client name. We have this status option. We can choose in progress, completed, or canceled. And then the company note, or the project note, is at the bottom. And then we have two tabs. We have the overview, which is essentially a listing of the reports. I would call this reporting. And there's a project profitability report, there's an unbilled time and expenses, there's a non-billable time report, and then we have a transactions tab, and obviously that's blank because we haven't added any transactions. So what we're going to do is we're going to add some transactions to this project so we can see how that works, and then we can see how the reports work. So we're going to add some labor costs first. We're going to go to the weekly timesheet. We're going to select the employee, and then right away we can see we now have an option to choose from the parent client, the project. It's clearly labeled as project on the right hand side, and then we have a sub customer, which is a sub client. So we're going to charge this labor to the project, and we're going to choose a service item. We're going to say hourly consulting services. And then we're going to choose billable, $100. We're going to put 8 hours for 3 days, and then we're going to add some non-billable time. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to choose a different service item so we can see how it looks on the report, just for illustration purposes. And we're not going to click billable here because we want to see the unbilled time on the report. So we're going to choose 7 hours, and then we're just going to choose 6 hours. We're going to hit Save and Close. Okay, so now we've added some labor costs to the project. Now we're going to add some non-labor expense to the project. So there's several ways we can do that. Let's just go to the Banking Center. And we have this expense coming through the Banking Center. This is Google, and it doesn't matter what we charge this to. And as you can see, now when we click on this client drop-down box, we have the option of charging this expense to the project. So we're going to do that. So now this expense will be charged to the project. If we hit billable, then we can also bill the client for this expense. So essentially it will be revenue, and it will also be the expense. So we're going to do that so we can see how that works. and we're going to hit add. Okay, so we've added labor costs to the project, and then we've added non-labor costs to the project. So let's go back to the projects center. Okay, so we're going to click on, as you can see, we have an in progress status for the projects. I assume after projects have been completed or canceled, there's another listing here that will differentiate between those different status options. So we're going to click on that project. And then if we click on transactions, as you can see, we have the, this is the Google expense at the bottom, and then we have the labor that we charged to the project. It was 8 hours times $100 per hour. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to add an invoice to this project. We're going to invoice the client for this project, and we are going to click on invoice. Okay, so at the top over here we have the project name, and then what we're going to do is we are going to add, this is the labor cost that we charge to it, 8 hours times $100. So we have 2 days, and I'm going to leave one of them off just so we can see how that's going to look on the reports. And then this is the Google expense that we added through the banking center. We're going to add that. Okay, so as you can see, we have 8 hours from the one day, 8 hours for another day, and then we have the $4.16 that we're going to charge to the client for this project. So we're going to hit save and close. Okay, so now we added labor to the project, we added an expense, and we created an invoice where we billed those to the project. So we're going to hit on transactions, and then as you can see, now we have the invoice added here. And then we're going to take a look at the reports and see what they look like. So let's look on the project profitability report first. Okay, so as you can see, the Google expense is up here under income, $4.16. And then it's also here down under expenses. We have the services that was charged on the invoice. So this is basically a profit and loss report broken down by the project. So that's very straightforward. Let's look at the other reports. Okay, let's look at unbilled time and expenses. Okay, so this is the 1 day of 8 hours that we included on the employee timesheet, but we didn't include on the invoice. So this report essentially is going to show us simply time that employees have charged to the project on their timesheet, but we haven't included on an invoice. And then we have this last option for non-billable time. And these are the hours that we charge to the project, but we're not billing the client for. There's one more thing I want to explain before I offer some closing comments, and that is you have the option of merging a sub-customer into a project. Let me explain how that works. So we're going to go to sales, and then we're going to go to clients. So Mercury Financial is the client. It's a parent client in this example. Computers Consulting is the project that we set up, and Human Resources is a sub-customer that I set up. Prior to this release of projects, there were a lot of people establishing sub-customers and using those as sort of a project function. So as you can see here also, there's no label to tell you that Computer Consulting is a project, and there's no label to tell you that Human Resources is a sub-customer. So what we're going to do is we're going to merge Human Resources into the consulting project. And what that's going to do is it's going to transfer all of the transactions to the Computer Consulting project. So we're going to click on the sub-customer Human Resources. And we're just going to change the name. We're going to click edit, and we're going to change the name to Computer consulting. Whoops. Okay, we'll try that again. Okay, we're going to hit save. So what we did was change this sub-customer name to the project name. It says that name is already being used. Would you like to merge the two? And the answer in our instance is yes. Okay, so let's go back. And as you can see, the human resources sub-customer is gone. And we have computer consulting project. Let's look at the details. Let's look at project profitability. And in this services line is one of the invoices that was previously under the human resources sub-customer. If we click on this $1,500 was previously a sub-customer, and now it's under the computer consulting project. So that's how you convert a sub-customer to a project. So there's going to be a couple of common questions I'm sure people are going to have. The first one is, can you charge labor costs to the projects? For instance, can you run the payroll and charge the labor costs directly to the project? And the answer is no, not at this time. Intuit has made it clear that this is sort of the first iteration of projects in QBO, so possibly in the future, but not currently. Another thing people are going to be wondering is, can you establish a budget or say a contract amount for a project? And the answer is no. So you don't really have the option of, say, comparing the contract amount versus how much you've billed currently. So overall, I will just mention that this is sort of a very lightweight projects feature. Intuit has made it clear that they're going to expand this and they're going to improve it, but it's never going to be sort of an advanced project or job costing function. So if you want that, you're going to have to go with a third-party app. For instance, BQE's Core. BQE is the company and Core is the product.